Hello, people. So today we're going to start a new chapter in our class 11 CBSE English, which is the portrait of a lady. So just from the title here, what do you understand? Nothing. I've seen a whole bunch of videos now, and all of them start like this, and I don't understand a freaking thing from the title. So let's just move on with the chapter, shall we? Yeah. So it's just about a boring author who has a boring grandmother. She's old and wrinkled, and then she wears a white sari, and then she dies. The end. So that's what is the summary of this story. So let's just go line by line. My grandmother, like everybody else's grandmother, was an old woman. Obviously, she had been old and wrinkled for the 20 years that I had known her. So, so from he was 0 years old till he was 20 years old, the grandma is still old. So that's what he wants us to comprehend from this, yeah? Okay, next author. So people said that she had once been young and pretty and had even had a husband, but that was hard to believe. Why would it be hard to believe, bro? Like, let's just read this from the author's point of view, yeah? Let's just be a little nice to this guy, yeah? Okay, so people said that she once had been young and pretty, and even had a husband, but that was hard to believe. Oh my gosh, how hard was it? I'll not tell you. Yeah, so my grandfather's portrait hung above the mantelpiece in the drawing room. Okay, so he wore a big turban and loose-fitting clothes. So I guess this whole thing is like some Punjab area. So like just imagine all these scenes happening in Punjab. So you'll have people wearing those kind of clothes, eating those kind of food, doing those kind of things. Their cultures, tradition, everything related to Punjabi, Haryana, those areas, right? So just like what do you say? Just try to blend in the story with their culture and stuff. Yeah, just interpret things. So yeah, he wore a big turban and loose fitting clothes. His long white beard covered the best part of his chest, and he looked at least 100 years old. So yeah, that's what he's trying to say. He's just describing how the his grandpa looks. So he has long white beard covered the best part of his chest. So it was that long, and he didn't look the sort of person who would have had a wife and children. I mean, then what does he look like? Excuse me, what? As for my grandmother being young and pretty, the thought was almost revolting. Uh-huh. She often told us of the games she used to play as a child that seemed quite absurd and undignified on her part, and we treated it like the fables of the prophets she used to tell us. So, like as kids, like we don't have this kind of understanding, right? When someone says that uh, like you look at someone who's like so giant and tall with huge mustache and all, and he's coming to you talking about his childhood days where he used to wear like these small trousers and jump in the puddle. So like it's just too funny to imagine because you just can't figure out this kind of huge guy as a kid doing all this sort of thing, right? So that's how a kid's mentality would be. So that's exactly what this author also um, has, and that's why he says all this. Like that seemed pretty absurd and undignified for him because like he couldn't imagine his grandma, who's like this old and wrinkly, to be someone else who's young and pretty and so tiny. Um, so she had always been short and fat and slightly bent. So, and then her face was a crisscross of wrinkles running from everywhere to everywhere. So she had a lot of wrinkles. So this guy, I mean, this author is just trying to give us a picture in our brains of how his grandpa and grandma used to look. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what all this description is for, just so that you could picture how his grandma is and what she does and whatever. Yeah. So no, we were certain she had always been as we had known her, old, so terribly old that she could have not grown older and had stayed at the same age for 20 years. So he says that all these 20 years she was the same old without growing older or getting younger. So it's some kind of paradox kind of situation which nobody understands because old means old and older again means old. So he says that she can't get older, which also doesn't mean that she gets younger. So that's what he means by all of this. And she could never have been pretty, but she was always beautiful. Huh? If she was always beautiful, why couldn't have she been pretty? Two contradictory statements in a single line. Wow. She hobbled around she hobbled about the house in spotless white, with one hand resting on her waist to balance a stoop, and the other telling the beads of a rosary. So you know how all the oldies walk, right? One hand in their back and like, they walk like that. Yeah, not with the sound effects, but just imagine you, okay? Yeah. So that's how they, yeah. So that's how they walk, right? So that's how even she walks because she's also old, and then she has, and this grandma is kind of like super religious and all. Yeah. So then her silver locks were scattered untidily over her pale, puckered face, and her lips constantly moving in inaudible prayer. So, yeah, she has an old face with gray hair and all, and her lips were constantly moving in inaudible prayer. So, like, just like while you're reading about this grandma, just imagine a ton of old people there and what all things they do. Like, yeah. So, um, there's just this thing like that just after you grow old, like almost like 60 and all the old people get so damn religious. Like, I don't even know how. Like, when they are kids, teens, adults, and all, they'll be like mild religious sort of thing, and then all of a sudden, all of them are religious. Like, huh? Like, that's how I see it. So, yeah. So even her, she's so damn religious, and that she's constantly with her rosary and she's constantly praying. I don't know what. Maybe like I need a bucket biryani from Monday to Thursday with chicken fries, but I don't know what she has to pray for that long, but whatever. Yeah. So, yeah. So, where were we? Yeah. So, yes, she was beautiful. She was like the winter landscape in the mountains, an expanse of pure serenity, breathing peace and contentment. After calling his grandma ugly, now he's just trying to convince her with a few poetic lines. Winter landscape in the mountains, an expanse of white serenity and stuff. Yeah, just don't. My grandma and I were good friends. My parents left me with her when they went in the city, and we were constantly together. She used to wake me up in the morning and get me ready for school. So his grandma and him were real good friends, and even though he roasted her for the past two paragraphs, but they apparently were good friends. The parents of the author had left him with the grandmother when they left in the city, and we were constantly together. Yeah, so that's that. How do I explain you that? She used to wake me up in the morning and get me ready for school. Yeah, so she used to do all the caretaker work, and just see how irresponsible these parents are. You, they left their own child with the old grandma and went to the city to just enjoy and have a private life. Like, how unfair, bro. That grandma, poor thing, you. Okay, so let's stop worrying about the grandma. Yeah, so where were we? Huh. So she said her morning prayer in a monotonous monotonous. I have no idea how to spell it, but whatever. Sing song while she bathed and dressed me in the hope that I would listen and get to know it by heart. Then she would fetch my wooden slate, which she had already washed and plastered with yellow chalk, and a tiny earthen ink pot and a red pen, tie them all in a bundle and hand it to me. So she used to take all the stuff and like organize them and then give it to the author. Okay, after a breakfast of thick stale chapati with a little butter and sugar spread on it, we went to school. What do you mean we? Why does the grandma go to school? Maybe to drop him shit. Okay, yeah, so she carried several stale chapatis with her for the village dogs. Wow, how nice. Like, see, bro, this is how you have to be when you're old. Very nice and kind with animals and humans, not like the other stupid ass Karens who are, you know them, right? Yeah, just don't be like them. So my grandma always went to school with me because the school was attached to the temple. Huh. Now I see. See it. I already told you that she was freaking religious, and now sending him off to school, she's going to the temple. Aren't you done praying, grandma? Like, seriously, what do you have to pray so much? Like, all I pray is before exams and when I'm hungry. Like, that's the two times that I pray. Like, shout out to God. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, she's freaking religious, as you can see. And the priest taught us the alphabet and the morning prayer, while the children sat in rows on either side of the veranda singing the alphabet or the prayer in a chorus. My grandmother sat inside reading the scriptures. When we had both finished, we would walk back together. So in the school, like this priest used to teach them whatever alphabet and morning prayer and stuff, and they used to sing the alphabet and prayer in chorus. And grandmother, she used to sit inside reading the scriptures, and when both were done, when the dispersal bell rings, both of them run out, and yeah, they just disperse out of that freaking school. So yeah, so that's what happens. And then remember the stale chapatis that she brings for the dogs. So now is when she feeds them. So the at this time, the village dogs would meet us at the temple door, and they followed us to our home, growling and fighting with each other for the steel chapatis we threw to them. When my parents were comfortably settled in the city, they sent for us. So after all their honeymoon and vacation, after they got comfortably settled, they called the grandmother and son, okay, to the city. And that was a turning point in our friendship. Although we shared the same room, my grandma no longer came to school with me. So I used to go to an English school in a motor bus. There were no dogs in the streets, and she took to feeding sparrows in the courtyard of our city house. So just after they moved totally from a village to a city, like there's so much difference, right? So much difference in so many different things. So due to all that, a lot of things happened. So although we shared the same room, although the author and the grandma, they shared the same room, but the grandma couldn't go to school with him. I mean, to like drop him off or something, because uh, schools here in cities are pretty far away, right? So he has to take a motor bus to school, and he was going to an English school. So due to all that, like a lot of shit happened, and there were no dogs in the streets as well. So Blue Cross. So due to that, she took to feeding the sparrows in the courtyard instead of dogs, because there were none of them there. And as the years rolled on, we saw less of each other. For some time, she continued to wake me up and get me ready for school. So as years passed, we'll have extra classes and early things and stuff, right? A lot of pressure and things grows on as the years pass by. Yes. So due to that, they almost saw very less of each other, and for some time she still continued to wake him up and get him ready for school. And when I came back, she'd ask me what the teacher had taught me, and I would tell her a few English words, little things of Western science and learning, the law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, the world being round, etc. And this made her unhappy. So this grandma, she doesn't know all these sort of things. She didn't get a PhD or something, so yeah, obviously. So she didn't know all these things, so she got kind of unhappy with the fact that they're not teaching a lot about the Lord in scriptures and just doing the Western science kind of stuff. She's totally like against those kind of things. Anything Western? Nope. She's like that. And yeah, so, and also, as all these things are totally out of her knowledge, she's even unable to like help him with his studies and like help him with what he's learning or whatever. So this made her kind of sad and kind of disconnected. And and also, when this author, he like announced to them that he was going to music lessons as well, she got very disturbed, because according to their cultures and stuff, music had lead associations, so it was a monopoly of harlots and beggars. So it was meant for like those kind of people who are like low and all. Like you, you see few of them, right, who like beg and by like singing and stuff. And, like, yeah, so according to her cultures and things, it was not very appropriate to learn music because it wasn't for gentlefolk. So even though she didn't like say anything like I disapprove this or make a scene or whatever, she was silent. So her silent meant disapproval. And after that, she rarely talked to the author. And then there's a there's a whole page left. Let's make it fast, right? Yeah. So when I decided to go abroad for further studies, I was sure my grandma would be upset. I'd be away for 5 years, and at her age, one could never tell. But my grandma could. So this guy had to. He got an opportunity in Oxford University, so he had to fly abroad for his further studies. Like, bro, Oxford was a joke. Okay. Yeah. So he had to fly abroad for for the studies, and then now I'll say Oxford, and then you'll write that in exam, and then when your mom asks who the f told you that he went to Oxford, and you'll be like, hey, the sucker from this channel told me, yaar, she's a liar. Everybody put hate to her. Please, we don't need any of those dramas here. That was a simple joke. Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, I was sure my grandma would be upset. I'd be away for 5 years, and at her age, one could never tell, but my grandma could. So, what this means is that, like, at her age, one could never tell when they're gonna go. So, that was what he he was thinking, like, filthy little human wishing for his grandma to die, huh? But his grandma could. Like, she was confident in her that she'd be there. बेटा तो 50 साल का भी हो जाना, मैं यही बुढ़ापन को कंटिन्यू करूँगी. Is that right? Who cares, bro? Just trying different languages. Okay, so yeah, we're how am I getting this distracted? Like, you. Okay, so so she was not even sentimental. Why should she? And she came to leave me at the railway station but didn't talk or show any emotion. Her lips moved in prayer, her mind was lost in prayer. She was like, instead of talking to these bunch of buffaloes, I'd rather pray. So that was her mentality, and her fingers were busy telling the beads of her rosary, and she silently kissed my forehead. And then I left. I cherished the moist imprints as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us. True, he before like even before he this grandma dies, he has like confirmed he has already made a bed for her in the hospital. Like, bro, what? Okay, so that was not so. After 5 years, I came back home and met by her at the station. She didn't look a day older. See, what a disappointment! Like, you can just feel the disappointment in his these two lines. Like, bro. She still had no time for words, and while she clasped me in her arms, I could hear her reciting her prayers. Even on the first day of my arrival, her happiest moments were with her sparrows, whom she fed longer with frivolous rebukes. Arey, don't be that jealous too, yaar. And then in the evening, a change came over her. She didn't pray. She collected the women of the neighborhood, got an old drum, and started to sing. And several hours she thumped the sagging skins of the dilapidated drum and sang for the homecoming of warriors. You what? She's a drummer? And they never told us? Bro, that's awesome. Like, just imagine a whole big drum set and then a grandma sitting in white sari and white hair who's like, bah, 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 bah. And then she's doing like these cool drum stunts. Yo, so messed up. It's like messed up in so many levels. Like, dude. Okay, then, yeah. So we had to persuade her to stop to avoid overstraining, and that was the first time I had known her that she didn't pray. So, like, whoa, after all these years, like in these 20 years, that was the first day he had seen him not pray. Damn. And then you'll see what happens. What happens next is crazy. Then the next morning, she was taken ill. It was a mild fever, and the doctor told us that it would go. But my grandmother thought differently. She told us that her end was near. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life, she had omitted to pray. She was not going to waste any more time talking to us. Like, finally, the author's wish has come true. Yeah. So, she was taken ill the next morning, and the doctor was like, it's just a mild fever, it would go. Don't worry about her. But then grandma, she thought differently. Oh no, my end is near. Kids, grandkids, goodbye. She was like that. And then this is like the same dialogue everybody says when they're in the hospital. Even I've said that when I had dengue, but nothing happened. I'm still alive. All my Moss movie dialogues have gone in vain. Sad. Okay, so yeah. So she omitted to pray and was not going to waste any more time talking to us. Damn, savage yo. We protested, but she ignored our protest. She lay peacefully in her bed, praying and telling her beads. Even before we could suspect, her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. A peaceful pallor spread on her face, and we knew that she was dead. The end. There's one more whole freaking paragraph. So we lifted her off the bed and is as is customary, laid her on the ground and covered her with a red shroud. After a few hours of mourning, we left her alone to make arrangements for her funeral. In the evening, we went to her room with a crude stretcher to take her to to be cremated. So, yeah, her chapter got over, and then they lifted her off the bed, and as it was customary, they put her down. I mean, not like literally, but like I mean, yeah, literally, yeah. But then not very forcefully. So yeah, they put her down and then covered her in a red shroud. And after a few hours of mourning, they left her alone. And then they went ahead with doing all the arrangements and stuff, like the things they do at someone's death. And then in the evening, they went to her room with a crude stretcher to take her to be cremated. And at that time, in the veranda, right where she was laying dead, thousands and thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor, and there was no chirping. Chirping meaning the sounds that the birds make, like chip, 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 chip. I'm a horrible mimicrist, so don't mind me. And yeah, so we felt sorry for the birds, and my mom fetched some bread for them. She broke it into little crumbs the way my grandma used to and threw it to them. The sparrows took no notice of the bread, and when we carried my grandma's corpse off, they flew away quietly. So the next morning, the sweeper swept the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. So all these thousands of sparrows, what these bunch of crooks thought was that these fellows were sad because they were hungry and this grandma isn't feeding them, and then went and put a don't make me swear, please. Yeah, and then they put a few breadcrumbs on the ground, hoping that they would eat. But then these people, these little sparrows, they had humanity in them. They had what we didn't. They felt sorry. They what do you say? They were so like depressed and devastated looking at their favorite person no more, and they just they just were standing there to be respect and some silence for what had happened. And yeah, but these bunch of crooks thought that these sparrows were hungry and that's why they were waiting. And these sparrows, they found it too disrespectful and just flew away without eating anything. And the next morning, the sweeper swept the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. So yeah, that's the whole story, and I hope you all liked it. I hope you all liked my narration and stuff. So we'll see you in another video, and if you like it, if you like this kind of content and stuff, you can subscribe. Otherwise, you don't have to. Yeah. So that is it, my people. That is it. Signing off. Bye, 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 bye.